Hey everyone, today we are looking into the life of Dorothy Townshend, a noblewoman whose life is surrounded in mystery and who subsequently became known as the Brown Lady after she began to haunt the country house of Raynham Hall after her death. This haunting became popular in the 1930s when photographers for Country Life magazine claimed to have captured the ghost's image. Here we look into her life and accounts of the Brown Lady. Over the centuries, there have been several ghost sightings at Raynham Hall, many of which are credible written accounts. Also, it was here that one of the most famous ghost photographs in the world was taken. Most agree that the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall is the ghost of Dorothy Townshend. So to get a better understanding of this tale, let's dive into her life. Dorothy Walpole was born on the 18th of September 1686 at Horton Hall, a country house in Norfolk, England. Her father, Robert Walpole, was an influential Whig politician and colonel in the militia, and her mother was a woman named Mary Burwell. The couple had a total of 19 children, many of whom went on to have notable careers. For example, Dorothy's older brother was Sir Robert Walpole, who is generally regarded as the first Prime Minister of Great Britain. But the family may well be best remembered today thanks to Sir Robert Walpole's son, Horace, who is the author of The Castle of Otranto, the world's first Gothic novel. In any case, given the family's wealth and prominence, Dorothy would have been brought up in luxury and received a good education, learning many skills which were required for society ladies, such as music, sewing, reading and writing. As a young lady, Dorothy is believed to have fallen in love with a Viscount Charles Townshend, a man 12 years her senior. However, Dorothy's father forbade the match, possibly because he did not want it to appear as though he was forcing the nobleman to wed his daughter. Well, he had been young Charles's guardian years earlier, following his father's death when he was just 13. It should also be noted that at this time, young Dorothy was only around 12 or 13 years of age, so she was very young. Eventually, Charles Townshend married Elizabeth Pelham in 1698. The couple went on to have 5 children, yet she died prematurely in 1711, at 30 years of age. This now allowed him to rekindle his relationship with Dorothy, and possibly ask for her hand. Nevertheless, Dorothy hadn't been idle all these years. While she wasn't married, she had become the mistress of Thomas Wharton, 1st Marquis of Wharton, a politician who was known for his immense charm and for being a fine public speaker. Yet he was also a notorious rake, who had a debauched and irreligious character, and was described as a man void of moral or religious principles. Despite her liaison with the married noble, she soon reconnected with her former love, and they were married in 1713. The couple went on to have at least 11 children born between 1714 and 1726, 6 of which survived into adulthood. From the outside, all seemed to be going well, yet Dorothy, who was now the Viscountess Townshend, was about to face a terrible fate. As the story goes, rumours of the liaison between Lady Dorothy and Lord Wharton from years earlier began to reach Charles Townshend. Although Lord Wharton had died back in 1715, it was only now that Charles Townshend was learning of the adultery his wife had committed with the notorious rake. Townshend was furious. He had a fierce temper, and historians have described him as being a passionate man who loved and hated quickly and rarely changed his mind once an opinion had been formed. As a result, he locked his wife in an isolated room from the rest of the house, where she remained as a prisoner. She was never to leave, and wasn't allowed to see her children. It's believed that she was locked away in Raynham Hall for the rest of her life. According to legal records, she died in 1726 of smallpox, though as she died under mysterious circumstances, there were rumours of a more violent death, with some believing that she was pushed down the hall's great staircase, breaking her neck. She was 39 years of age at the time and was subsequently buried. Yet legend has it that she didn't actually die at this time, and that her funeral was a sham. It's suspected that Lady Dorothy remained in prison in Raynham Hall for many years after 1726, until her eventual death, possibly from starvation. Years passed, and her life and the mysterious tale surrounding it faded into obscurity. But this would all change in the 19th century, when many visitors to Raynham Hall reported seeing a lady in a dated brown dress walking the halls at night. It's been claimed that in 1815, the Prince Regent, later King George IV, saw this himself. Apparently he declared, "I will not pass another hour in this accursed house, for I have seen that what I hope to God I may never see again." As with everyone else, he would have seen how this figure seemingly appeared out of the blue and then vanished into thin air. And the eerie thing about these sightings is that all claim that the brown lady bore a strong resemblance to a portrait of Lady Dorothy that hung in a bedroom. 20 years later, in 1835, a Christmas gathering was held at Raynham Hall, and various guests were invited to join in the Christmas festivities. Among the guests were a Colonel Loftus and a Mr. Hawkins, who claimed that one night, as they approached their bedrooms, they had seen the brown lady, noting in particular the dated brown dress she wore. The following evening, Loftus claimed to have seen her again, this time reporting that she had dark, empty eye sockets and a glowing face. These sightings terrified the staff, leading many to leave their jobs. The following year, Captain Frederick Marriott, a Royal Navy officer, novelist and friend to Charles Dickens, stayed a few nights in Raynham Hall. He specifically requested the room where Lady Dorothy's portrait was, in order to prove that the brown lady wasn't real, and that the ghost sightings were due to smugglers at Raynham. Florence Marriott, who was the captain's daughter, wrote the following of his experience. He took possession of the room in which the portrait of the apparition hung, and in which she had often been seen, and slept each night with a loaded revolver under his pillow. For 2 days, however, he saw nothing, and the third was to be the limit of his stay. On the third night, however, 2 young men knocked at his door as he was undressing to go to bed, and asked him to step over to their room, which was at the other end of the corridor, and give them his opinion on a new gun just arrived from London. My father was in his shirt and trousers, but as the hour was late, and everybody had retired to rest, except themselves, he prepared to accompany them as he was. As they were leaving the room, he caught up his revolver. "In case you meet the brown lady," he said, laughing. When the inspection of the gun was over, the young men in the same spirit declared they would accompany my father back again. "In case you meet the brown lady," they repeated, laughing also. The 3 gentlemen therefore returned in company. The corridor was long and dark, for the lights had been extinguished, but as they reached the middle of it, they saw the glimmer of a lamp coming towards them from the other end. "One of the ladies going to visit the nurseries," whispered the young Townsends to my father. Now, the bedroom doors in that corridor faced each other, and each room had a double door with a space between, as is the case in many old-fashioned houses. My father, as I have said, was in shirt and trousers only, and his native modesty made him feel uncomfortable, so he slipped within one of the outer doors, his friends following his example, in order to conceal himself until the lady should have passed by. I have heard him describe how he watched her approaching nearer and nearer through the chink of the door, until, as she was close enough for him to distinguish the colours and style of her costume, he recognised the figure as the facsimile of the portrait of the brown lady. He had his finger on the trigger of his revolver, and was about to demand it to stop and give the reason for its presence there, when the figure halted of its own accord before the door behind which he stood, and holding the lighted lamp she carried to her features, grinned in a malicious and diabolical manner at him. This act so infuriated my father, who was anything but lamb-like in disposition, that he sprang into the corridor with a bound and discharged the revolver right in her face. the figure instantly disappeared, and the bullet passed through the outer door of the room onto the opposite side of the corridor, and lodged in the panel of the inner one. My father never attempted again to interfere with the Brown Lady of Raynham. After this encounter, sightings of the Brown Lady decreased significantly, and the next recorded sighting wasn't until 1926, when the Lady Townshend's son and his friend allegedly spotted the ghost on the staircase. They also said that what they had seen resembled the portrait of Lady Dorothy Townshend. In 1936, the tale of the Brown Lady came to national attention when the photographer Captain Hubert C. Provand, along with his assistant Indre Shearer, began taking photographs of Raynham Hall for Country Life magazine. As with any other job, they tried to get the best shots possible, but while they were photographing the grand staircase, a vapory form gradually assuming the appearance of a woman moved towards them. It was a Brown Lady. Shearer stated the following regarding this: "Captain Provand took one photograph while I flashed the light. He was focusing for another exposure. I was standing by his side, just behind the camera, with the flashlight pistol in my hand, looking directly up the staircase. All at once, I detected an ethereal veiled form coming slowly down the stairs. Rather excitedly, I called out sharply, 'Quick, quick, there's something!' I pressed the trigger of the flashlight pistol. After the flash, and on closing the shutter, Captain Provand removed the focusing cloth from his head and turning to me said, 'What's all the excitement about?' After this, the two developed the photographs, and it was now that they realised that they had captured an image of the infamous Brown Lady. 3 months after their encounter at Raynham Hall, an article was published in Country Life magazine which contained Provand and Shearer's ghostly experience, as well as the photograph of the Brown Lady. This story was published in Life magazine just weeks later, and as a result, the photograph of the Brown Lady became the most famous ghost picture in the world. Nevertheless, one organisation, the Society for Psychical Research, wasn't convinced, and they were determined to discover the truth. Their investigator was a Mr. C.V.C. Herbert, and he interviewed Provand and Shearer about what had occurred. He noted that Shearer was a nervous and superstitious Scotsman, wasn't a very good photographer, was more interested in business, used a pseudonym, and interestingly, had told Lady Townshend that he hoped of photographing a ghost. When Herbert spoke to Captain Provand, the conversation mainly centered on the camera. Herbert examined the photograph and found anomalies towards the edges of the frame. He also noted that it seemed as if the camera had been shaken, and it also looked like the staircase had accidentally been photographed twice, to which Provand replied that the camera was in fact placed on a slightly unsteady marble table, and that when he removed the lens, he did it very quickly, and this could explain the shakiness of the exposure. In Herbert's mind, what they had captured wasn't the Brown Lady, but was actually a mistake from the photographers. Despite Herbert's skeptical report, many experts were satisfied with the pair's explanation, and even the prominent Harry Price gave them the benefit of the doubt, saying, "I could not shake their story, and I had no right to disbelieve them." Yet others claimed it was a fake. Although manipulating photos in 1936 seems impossible when compared to the technology today, it was doable. Critics have given various explanations as to how the image was a hoax. These include putting grease on the lens in the shape of a figure, moving down the stairs during an exposure, a double exposure, or a simple superimposition of the Madonna statue onto the empty staircase. Thus, while the photograph may not be real, the life of Dorothy Townshend certainly was, and the subsequent haunting which occurred makes one wonder what exactly was going on at Raynham Hall which led to all of these recorded sightings over the centuries. In any case, real or not, the story of the Brown Lady and her basis in history certainly makes for a very interesting tale. Thank you everyone for watching this video on the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall and Dorothy Townshend. I hope you found it interesting. Let me know what you thought of her life and of the recorded ghost sightings in the comments. I hope you guys are subscribed and have notifications turned on to get all my videos as soon as I upload them. And if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. I'll see all of you in the next Forgotten Life. Thanks.